You see a raccoon in your yard in the middle of the afternoon. It's stumbling a little, moving slow, not running away from you. And your brain immediately goes to one place: rabies. You've probably already reached for your phone to call animal control. Here's what almost nobody tells you. That call is usually about the wrong disease entirely. This video is about what's actually going on with that raccoon. And I want to be upfront. This isn't the relax, it's probably fine video. Some of what I'm going to show you is genuinely alarming. But it's alarming in the opposite direction from what you think. Because the real story here involves a man-made epidemic, a government airdrop campaign most people have never heard of, and an animal that's quietly killing more Americans than raccoons ever have. We're going to get to all of that. But first, let's start with the thing that changes everything you thought you knew about that stumbling raccoon in your yard. Welcome back to Backyard Habitat Raccoon Chronicles, where we always bring the most interesting, unknown facts about our backyard friends. Let's go. Wildlife controllers get hundreds of calls every year from homeowners who believe they've just seen a raccoon with rabies. And the thing is, those callers aren't wrong to be concerned. The problem is that the large portion of those reported cases turn out to be raccoons suffering from canine distemper, not rabies. Two completely different diseases. And here's the part that should genuinely stop you in your tracks. It is next to impossible to distinguish rabies from distemper by sight alone. Lab testing of brain tissue is the only definitive way to know. Even a professional standing right next to that raccoon cannot tell you which one it is. So every time you or a neighbor has looked at a stumbling raccoon and said, "That thing is definitely rabid," there's a real chance you are looking at a completely different disease. So what is distemper, and why does it look so much like rabies? Both are generally fatal viral diseases, but distemper attacks various bodily systems like the gastrointestinal and respiratory systems, while rabies affects the brain and nervous system. They're attacking the body through totally different routes. And yet, they both affect the spinal cord and have shown symptoms of spinal cord lesions, which is exactly why they produce that same heartbreaking picture. The raccoon stumbling around in daylight, losing its balance, not running from you. A case of distemper starts out similar to an upper respiratory complaint, with symptoms of coughing, discharge from the nose or eyes, fever, loss of appetite, vomiting, and lethargy. In the later stages, distemper can cause confusion and abnormal behavior, which may appear similar to symptoms of rabies. So by the time that raccoon is stumbling across your lawn, it could be in the late stage of distemper, and it would look almost identical to a rabid animal. There is one physical clue that can nudge you in the right direction. Look for thick, crusty discharge around the eyes and nose, which often indicates a viral respiratory infection. That's more consistent with distemper. The rabies virus attacks the central nervous system, leading to obvious neurological symptoms like circling, self-mutilation, or partial paralysis. True rabid behavior often includes unprovoked aggression or a complete lack of response to external stimuli, and an infected animal may also emit unusual vocalizations or exhibit foaming at the mouth due to throat paralysis. But again, these are tendencies, not rules. The only real answer comes from a lab. So the practical takeaway is this: treat any sick raccoon as a potential risk. Keep your distance, keep your pets away, and call your local animal control. That part of the conventional advice is completely right. What's wrong is the assumption that you already know which disease you're looking at. Now here's where this gets darker, because distemper being common doesn't mean rabies isn't real. Raccoon rabies in the eastern United States is a very real, very active epidemic, and almost nobody knows how it started. The entire raccoon rabies belt that now stretches up the whole eastern seaboard traces back to a single decision made in 1977. Hunting clubs in Virginia wanted more raccoons to hunt, so more than 3,500 raccoons were legally trapped in Florida and shipped north, where they were released as game animals. Some of those raccoons were already infected, and that one translocation event seeded what became one of the largest wildlife disease outbreaks in American history. Researchers have actually tracked how this virus moved. The USDA's oral rabies vaccination program, originally implemented in the 1990s, helps prevent the raccoon rabies epizootic from moving west of the Appalachian Mountains, where raccoon rabies does not exist. So there is a geographic line, and the virus has been pressing against it for decades. What's fascinating is that geography itself has been doing some of the fighting. The Appalachian mountain range and the Great Lakes have acted as natural barriers that slowed the spread. Within New York State, the Finger Lakes region formed a boundary between two genetically distinct viral subgroups, and researchers could trace the northward creep of one subgroup into the Adirondacks all the way back to a single translocated diseased animal. One sick raccoon moved by a person, and you can see it in the virus's family tree decades later. And here's the part that's going to make you look at your backyard differently. The government is actively fighting this epidemic right now, from the air. The U.S. Department of Agriculture's Animal and Plant Health Inspection Service distributes an oral rabies vaccine bait annually in select areas in the eastern United States to prevent the spread of raccoon rabies. The baits consist of a sachet or plastic packet containing the oral rabies vaccine. And to make the baits attractive to raccoons, the packets are sprinkled with a fishmeal coating or encased inside hard fishmeal polymer blocks about the size of a matchbox. Each of these fishmeal baits is also imprinted with a toll-free phone number to report bait contacts. Every year, the USDA drops millions of oral rabies vaccines across 14 states, mostly along the eastern seaboard, in urban and suburban areas by vehicle, and in rural areas by plane. This has been going on for years, and most people living in affected states have no idea. Erie County, New York, for example, participated in a nationally coordinated effort to reduce rabies risks in wildlife as recently as May 2026 through the distribution of bait containing rabies vaccine by air and on the ground. So if you ever find a small waxy block the size of a matchbox in your yard that smells faintly of fish, don't throw it away. That's a vaccine. Leave it alone and let it do its job. Now, I mentioned at the very beginning of this video that there's an animal killing more Americans than raccoons ever have. And I want to pay that off now because this is the thing that genuinely surprised me when I looked into it. Contact with infected bats is the leading cause of human rabies deaths in the United States. At least 7 out of 10 Americans who die from rabies in the US were infected by bats, not raccoons. Bats. During 1960 to 2018, approximately 70% of 89 human rabies cases acquired in the United States were caused by exposures to bats. And the reason bats are so dangerous compared to raccoons isn't that they're more aggressive. It's that people don't know. People may not be aware bats carry rabies, so they may not see a medical provider after touching or handling a bat. And bat bites are smaller than the tip of a pencil eraser. You can be bitten by a bat and genuinely not know it happened. It's important to be aware of the risk, especially with bat bites, which can be easy to ignore because they don't always leave obvious marks. Meanwhile, raccoons get all the daytime paranoia, people calling animal control, posting on neighborhood apps, filming videos, while the actual leading cause of human rabies death in this country is quietly roosting in attics and barn rafters. Although less than 1% of bats in nature are infected with rabies, bat variants of rabies are found in most areas of the United States and are responsible for the majority of human deaths from rabies. The risk per individual bat is low. The problem is that people don't take the exposure seriously when it happens. If you wake up and there's a bat in your room, that is a medical situation. You should call your doctor or local health department because you may have been bitten without knowing it. So let's pull this all together because a lot has shifted since the start of this video. That stumbling daytime raccoon. Canine distemper has been frequently mistaken for rabies due to its severe and often fatal symptoms. The odds are meaningful that what you're looking at is distemper, not rabies. But you cannot know for certain by looking, and any sick raccoon must be treated as a rabies threat for public safety. Keep your distance, keep your pets away, and call animal control. The raccoon rabies epidemic on the East Coast is real. It was started by a human decision, and the government is actively fighting it with a bait drop campaign that most people in affected states have never heard of. And the animal you should actually be most worried about, the one responsible for the majority of human rabies deaths in this country, isn't the raccoon at all. It's the bat, the one you might not even notice until it's too late. If you found this useful, drop a comment below. I'm genuinely curious whether you've ever seen a sick raccoon and what you thought was going on. If you've gained any value, feel free to subscribe for weekly content on our Backyard Friends. That will have you looking at your yard in a whole different light. See you in the next one.